Welcome to Monograph Workshops. So I'm your host, Chris Morgan from Monograph, along with my colleague, Tyler Suomala. If you're not familiar with Monograph, we're a performance management platform that helps architecture and engineering firms forecast resources and reduce budgeting risks. This is a 30-minute virtual workshop about how to manage client risks in A&E using Monograph. In this workshop, you're going to learn 3 business habits for reducing client risks that are amplified by economic uncertainty in 2023. By the end of the workshop today, you're going to know top client risks facing AE firms, 3 actionable strategies to drive firm performance from industry experts, and easy tools to track and forecast your firm performance. It looks like we have active customers as well as some prospective customers joining today. The reason why that's really good is it's designed for emerging and experienced firm leaders in architecture and engineering. Whether you use Monograph already or not, stick around till the end to get all the tips today that can help you at your work right away. If you don't already have a Monograph account, you can take out your phone and you see that QR code up there. Just take a picture of your screen and you can follow the link and fill it out and we can start getting you set up. So with Monograph, your firm's performance is in plain sight. Easily forecast resources and track daily progress. Monograph is designed for architecture and engineering firms specifically. And it's loved by 800 plus architecture and engineering firms, such as AIA architecture firm award winners Brooks and Scarpa and Snowcrylic Architects, as well as notable firms such as Workshop APD, Trahan Architect, Correct Sexton Partners, and hundreds more. Thanks to all the Monograph customers who are joining today. We deeply value the opportunity to partner with you in helping drive your firm forward. And we appreciate your continuous feedback to help improving the Monograph platform. So at Monograph, we actually actively engage with industry leaders, internal and external data sources, and hundreds of Monograph firms to understand patterns, challenges, and best practices. Just a few weeks ago, we published the 2023 Strategic Risk Report, which is a 32-page study that uncovers the most urgent business issues facing architecture and engineering firms as clients react to economic uncertainty. Monograph interviewed industry leaders to uncover the top risks, metrics, and strategies to overcome this economic climate and drive firm performance. Leaders at firms like Olson Kundig, Marlin Blackwell Architects, and more explore the urgent issues that are happening right now and what leadership actions you can take next. Other contributors include Kimberly Dowdle, who's the AIA president-elect for 2024, which is also a principal at HOK. Mark LePage, who is founder of Entree Architect. Bolanle Williams-Olay, who's the CFO of Mancini Duffy. Robert Ewan, CEO at Monograph, Angela Brooks, FAIA, principal at Brooks and Scarpa, and more. So hundreds have already explored this report. The recurring response that we're getting from folks is that it confirms they are not alone in what they're seeing in their firm or region. And it's probably true for you as well. As one firm leader put it, all firms assume that other firms have figured it out and that they're the only one that's doing it wrong. This report really helps you see that it's less a me problem and more an us problem. So the most important thing happening right now that is affecting the business climate is the economic uncertainty in the general economy. And this affects the AE industry. Most urgent business risks facing AE firms today stem from economic uncertainty, inflation, interest rates, rising material costs. How does this impact your business? 4 business risks are amplified because of this economic climate. Increased risks to clients, money, time, and staff create ripple effects that ultimately impact overall firm performance. The AE industry is a services industry. We depend on clients and their budgets to fund projects and ultimately our business. And in today's economy, uncertainty impacts our clients' money. So that's why we're going to narrow in on the 3 top client risks that are amplified today as a result of this economic uncertainty and what you can do about it. So we've compiled a clear graphic that you can screenshot, save this. This is going to guide us in the rest of the presentation today. So what are these top 3 risks? Project disruptions. So here's how Olson Kundig CEO Himanshu Parwani explains the situation. Many firms are coming off of a very busy period with a huge wave of work and projects that push them to expand their workforce, but that wave could crest. Capital uncertainty creates a pause and rush project cycle for clients where projects go dormant and then suddenly resume, which destabilizes billing and resourcing. Then there's payment slowdown. So firms are already seeing project disruptions, stoppages, and cancellations. But what about payments? So last week during office hours, AE management consultant Hannah Brown said that the firms that she works with are seeing increased slowdowns in payments already. And Mancini Duffy, CFO, Belonley Williams LA, has also been warning that collection periods, they were already getting worse last year, and they're likely to even worsen and are already doing so in the coming years because the capital costs are increasing for clients. Last, it's an effect of project disruptions. As more firms rush into the market to replace billings due to their lost projects, there is this increased competition for fewer projects in the market. So what can you do? In the strategic risk report, we got 3 leadership actions that you can take home with you right now in terms of overcoming this uncertainty. So first is simply to track and forecast. So this is coming from Hannah Brown. She's an AE business consultant who works with many architecture and engineering firms on their business challenges. So her leadership action is to forecast net cash flow based on last year's P&L, your projected revenue based on active projects, and then track your billings as they're happening on a platform like Monograph to drill down into your actuals versus your forecast. That is how you can assess your situation. The next is to improve rhythms. So track collections periods, follow up with clients proactively, and establish other periodic rhythms to reduce the time it takes to convert invoices to cash. This comes from Belonley Williams LA. She's a CFO at Mancini Duffy. Everything is cash right now. Cash is necessary to hold your payroll over, which is a constant cost that many firms have taken on as a result of trying to keep up with demand over the past couple of years. Finally, streamline admin. So streamline the business side of your firm. Use QuickBooks and Monograph to get the low-hanging fruit done. This is coming from Angela Brooks, FAIA at Brooks and Scarpa. A lot of principals currently, when they're not in a platform like Monograph, they're really stuck in they're important activities, but they're taking away time from billable work or going to get more billable work. So we're going to cover concrete workflows that you can do to act on these leadership actions. The 3 things are to assess your situation. So to visualize project timelines and what the effect is on project disruptions to your overall schedule. Then how does that impact your billings? And then how does that impact your profitability coming up over the next couple months? Next is, what should you do with your active projects? So we've gotten a sense for what projects we've lost and what we need to replace those lost billings. But what about the active projects? What can you do now to create higher velocity of cash into your business and better throughput of your time converting that into revenue? So we're going to be talking about invoices, payments, and then an overview of all invoicing activity. Last, we're going to talk about creating more time overall for higher value activities. So we're going to be looking at how you can drill down into where time is going so that you can fix inefficiencies. You can drill down to see which projects you should go get more of or which projects you want to do more of. However, you have a problem in terms of efficiency in current parts of that project. And then you can go back and figure out exactly where that time is maybe inefficient. You can get a sense for what is coming up in terms of your planned time for your whole team and how does that match up with your utilization targets. So that's the overview. I'm going to now hand it off to Tyler, who's going to be walking through how we can take action on these leadership strategies right away inside of Monograph.
Thanks, Chris. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? A lot of heavy information there, but here's the good news, right? It doesn't have to be this way. The whole point of using something like Monograph, right, is to take all of these things into account and take us from more of a reactive position and put us into a proactive position, right? Where we can actually be actively managing our business and using the data, that we know from inside of our business to make more informed decisions. So that means, especially in times of economic uncertainty like right now, that whatever's happening outside is going to have less application to what's happening within your business because it's now stabilized and more reliable because you are in that proactive state. So that's really the goal of giving yourself this ability to kind of track and forecast your firm's performance. One great place to start here is just in our projects overview tab, right? You're going to see all of your projects here in one place, especially for active customers, right? This is where you're seeing all of your projects in one place at one time. You can get a sense for their statuses, whether these are proposed projects, whether they're paused or active. And just like Chris was talking about, right? It's not uncommon right now. It's not uncommon ever, but it's let's say it's more common now that you're getting calls from your clients right now because they're hesitant because of the economic uncertainty, because there's other things that are pulling their money in different directions. You're getting a lot more calls right now for your projects to be paused in some capacity. All right, so let's see. I'm going to jump into the fixed fee projects because this client just gave me a call and let me know they're going to need to pause the project because they're unsure about where their money is going to come from, for example. So I can pop in here, I can change this project into a pause project immediately. I can update that. And when I pop back to the projects page, you can see that it's already visually identified in a different way. That's also what these dashed marks mean here. This means that these are proposed projects. So this is just a great place. And I know Chris had said this before, right, Chris? It's not uncommon that firms are putting this page in particular onto their big, giant screen that happens in their office, just so that everyone in the office can be aware of what these timelines are, what projects are coming up next, which ones are proposed, which ones are locked in, and which projects are paused, right? So you can just kind of see it in one place.
So Tyler, we're talking about schedule here, how it affects the overlap of all these timelines. What about the effect on billings?
Yeah, so a great place to run into that is going to be, we're going to jump right into reports. So here on the projects report, I'm currently looking at a specified timeline that's running to June. But let's say we want to begin to understand things like on an annual level, right? So I'm going to jump in. Let's do from January 2023, and I want to just look at all of 2023 so that we can begin to take our 2023 goals into account, for example. Let's say we have a specific goal of generating, $6 million in revenue for 2023 just as a firm. In this case, I want to take into account active projects, paused projects, and canceled projects. This is revenue that we anticipated bringing in, right, at some point or another. And by filtering to those, I can already begin to see, hey, we're about 2 million short of what our revenue goal is already. So we already know we have some business development work to do in general. But as I remove specific projects here, I can remove like a canceled project, for example. I can see the impact that already has on the total planned fee. I can remove paused projects and again, see another decrease. So we lost about $1 million, right, in planned revenue just from taking into account our paused and canceled projects. That's 1 million out of the 4 million. So that's 25% of our business that's lost as a result of this economic uncertainty. So this is part of that assessing our situation, right, Chris, that you were talking about. You can begin to see how exposed you are, 25% of the business, not a small number, right, to begin to understand what our risk level is.
And Tyler, can I see the projects that are coming into the pipeline in terms of value?
Proposed projects, yeah.
There we go. So this is where you can start to move between these different project statuses to forecast forward the dollar value of these projects. How are you tracking in terms of active, paused, canceled, proposed towards your revenue goal? In this case, maybe our revenue goal is 6 million. We're still at the beginning of the year, but we're already getting hit with some project stoppages, some cancellations that won't go back online. We have to replace those outright, and project pause, which means we can't bill for that until it goes back online. We don't know when it's going to go back online. This gives us a better sense within minutes after getting the email from your client, or maybe your project manager was the one who got the news, and they're letting you know as a principal this effect on the business. You can jump in within minutes and get a real-time picture that you can start discussing amongst yourself, with your partners, or even with your project managers, depending on how you've staffed out your team.
Exactly right. And we know, especially from Todd at CVG, right, in this risk report, revenue is only one part of the story, right? So you have revenue goals, but you need to continue to adapt your systems to make sure that they're maintaining their productivity and their efficiency, so that increased revenue also leads to increased profit, right? So there's two sides of that coin. There's two sides of the story. So how do you understand profit, how do you begin to forecast that as well? Works in the exact same way. If I want to look at active, paused, and canceled projects, again, getting an understanding for the year of 2023, I'll filter this again to understand our revenue goals and what kind of profit we can anticipate. Like Chris was saying, we're early in the year, right? So we're still seeing a loss here for the second half of the year because we haven't done that business development work yet to bring in the second half of the year. But I can see what was planned. Like, what do we think our planned profit was going to be based on that? $4 million in revenue. We were going to bring in about 1.3 million in planned profit. But again, you start removing these things, these canceled projects, you start removing these paused projects, you begin to see very quickly your exposure, right? Cut our profit in half just as a result of taking into account the projects that have been canceled or paused up to this point. That's a big impact. And again, to Chris's point, I can begin to add in proposed projects and get a sense for, very big impact here in terms of wanting to increase our pipeline and do some more business development work. What's also really great about this report is that it becomes clear where you can begin to focus your business development efforts, especially in terms of a timeline, right? We can see we're pretty comfortably stacked up until about the middle of the year. July seems to be this pretty clear cutoff point where we see a huge drop in profit. We also saw it on the revenue side, right? Where this is going to be a good area to begin focusing your proposals moving forward so that you can kind of even out that year.
How can we create more time for that business development? And then in the meantime, how can we start bringing in the cash from our active projects faster so that we're not both dealing with an inefficiency problem in terms of billing while we're also trying to invest more time into business development?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that Bolanle had talked about, right? These rhythms of bringing some stability to your cash flow. Obviously, the biggest area that tends to happen is going to be in invoices, right? Usually, when I'm speaking to firms, they're coming in and they have different spreadsheets, different systems that they're all kind of mixed around, right? There's something that they're tracking their time in. There's another thing where they're tracking the progress of their budget. There's another spreadsheet where they're seeing what's been previously billed. And they kind of have to combine these things all together to get that holistic view of what they should be billing and what they should be invoicing for each time. That adds a lot of time to the process, right? What's nice about using something like Monograph is that we're going to consolidate all of that information into one place and we're going to automate it for you so that when you pop into your invoices, you already get a sense for what's planned, what's unbilled, what's been logged by your team, and what's been previously billed. So we're giving you all of the information that you need to make those informed decisions. We're doing that for fixed services, hourly, consultants, expenses, all the way through. So then when you go to generate that invoice, choose that issue date and your net terms, pop over here to preview. You're giving your clients something that's easy for them to digest and easy for them to understand, right? You're providing them with the information that they need. That obviously helps to reduce payment time. And another thing that helps to reduce time to get paid is from here, I can open this and I can share it, send an email directly to my client from here that can also include a payment link where you can receive ACH transfers and credit card payments online. What's this mean? This dramatically helps to reduce your time to get paid, right? Because you don't have to wait for that paper check to come in the mail. You're not relying on some other kind of system. We generally see pretty big reductions in time to get paid. And obviously that helps to stabilize your cash flow in the long run as well.
So how would I track this, Tyler? Like, is there a place where I can start tracking how long it's taking to get paid or tracking what the activity is across all of these invoices that I'm sending out monthly?
Yeah. As we know, we send out an invoice, we cross our fingers, and we hope that invoices get paid in a reasonable amount of time, right? But we want to be able to begin to understand how those invoices are performing, what their statuses are, and the different impacts that things like clients, projects, and categories can have on invoice time. So we have this great invoices overview report here, right? Which allows you to see, in this case, I'm just looking over the last 3 months, and I can actually see what invoices, how much remains paid, what remains open, and what remains past due. In this case, I can see I have a relatively large project, relatively large invoices that remain past due here, which would be a good area for me to focus or for someone to begin focusing their efforts in order to get these invoices paid. But you can understand here at a client level, at a project level, and at a category level, your average time to get paid, right? So that this is another component of focusing your business development efforts moving forward. Are there specific clients that you want to pursue because you know that they tend to be more stable? Is there specific categories that have a reduced amount of time to get paid so that you can, again, begin to stabilize that cash flow better?
We talked about assessing your situation on lost projects. We talked about what you need to do on your active projects to improve the frequency by which you bill so that you can get cash faster from your active projects. Now let's talk about the time that you now have saved in that process, where to reinvest it. So where else are you inefficient is the big question. We find that a lot of firms before Monograph, they're incredibly inefficient in their invoicing process. So they're able to save hours a month of valuable time that could either be directed towards billable hours on client projects or business development to generate future work. But where else in the firm is there inefficiency?
So I think a go-to here is always like meetings in office. That's something that easiest to go to, everyone can relate to. So I've gone ahead and filtered in this case over the last 3 months just to get an understanding of the billable fee that has been logged across the team. This team in this case has logged 11,000 billable hours for a billable fee that's worth about $2 million. But we can start to use this report to identify areas where we might be missing out on additional billable hours or additional time. What's the most common place that people go to when they think about that? They're thinking of meetings in office. This can be a painful filter to turn on, right? And see that over the last 3 months, there's been $130,000 worth of fees that have been spent in the office. So the question is, does it make sense to minimize some of those meetings in some way so that time can get back towards billable hours?
Yep. How do you find out which project types, clients, or phases are most profitable? Where should you improve efficiency? And what kind of projects should you double down on?
Yes. This is my favorite report, right? The Profit Drivers Report. There's different ways of understanding how your firm is performing in different categories with different clients in different phases. And that's what Profit Drivers helps you to understand. So you can understand at a category level, and these are customizable depending on however you typically categorize your work. You can order here by planned margin and get an understanding of which categories of work are most and least profitable for your firm. Why is this helpful? Because you can use this information when you go back to do your business development to prioritize your time towards specific categories if they happen to be more profitable for your firm and even also bring in more revenue, right? So it's a combination of profit and revenue that you want to understand here to make more confident and informed decisions. Doesn't stop at the category though, right? We already talked about this. Clients. Understand which clients are most and least profitable. This becomes really important, especially as you're trying to decide which clients might pay you in the best way, might pay you the fastest. If you have a painful client that you don't enjoy working with, pretty good report to come to if you want to justify not working with them again in the future. So this is great for project managers and principals to come into just to evaluate the strength of your relationship with your clients.
We also split it up by phase. So maybe you can't eliminate a phase. It's an important part of the project. You can figure out which part of your projects, which phase is least efficient. And then you can go back to that work time log and drill down to find out what it is about that time usage that is less efficient. Last part of this, track and forecast utilization.
Yes.
First one is to talk about team activity. So team activity is showing us as you're logging your billable activity and your non-billable activity, this report will give you a real-time view of the distribution of billable time versus non-billable time. What we find is that firms who bring Monograph into their practice to become more efficient and to work on higher value activities, especially principals, will see a month-to-month change in terms of how their time is being used towards billable versus non-billable. Then on the forecast side, you can talk what your team's current forecast of workload is relative to their utilization. It gives us the sense of scale about what's the expectation, what's reasonable. So when you just consider loading all this work on your current staff, use this report to help balance that workload so that you hit the utilization targets you want and avoid burnout. A quick overview. A lot of people here are very busy, very concrete leadership actions that you can prioritize in your firm that can make a difference in your business results. Economic uncertainty affects client money, and client money affects our project pipeline. It affects our opportunities to do architecture and engineering services and build the built environment. And when that client money gets at risk, clients get worried or their money gets locked up, funding changes, it has this ripple effect on other parts of your whole business. The industry has benefited from a growth cycle, but now really key focus is how do you create more time for business development because the climate is more competitive. There's fewer projects out there. Firms are dealing with inefficiency internally, and now they have an added pressure to go replace projects that they had already contracted billings for. It's taking you a step backwards. So to recover from that, these are 3 key strategies with concrete actions you can take in Monograph to get ahead of this. Tyler, we just talked about Invoices Overview. It's actually a very recent release. Can you talk more about what research went into that, why we prioritize that as a key new feature?
Yeah, I mean, it's well aligned with our focus this year on understanding like the economic uncertainty that's surrounding the industry and the risks associated with it, right? It's easy to assume that when you generate an invoice, you're kind of already counting the eggs before they've hatched, right? You generate that invoice and you might put it off to the side of like your mind, say, all right, that's revenue that we can plan on coming in. When in reality, what we oftentimes find is that the time to get paid can vary widely from client, from category, like we were talking about. And we didn't have an easy way to see that. So that was really the impetus between bringing this invoice overview into the market, right? To give you the ability to quickly see and understand what the statuses of your invoices are so that you can use that information to make informed decisions that are healthier for your business.
In this workshop, you learned how to manage client risks in A&E using Monograph. We covered 3 actionable strategies to drive firm performance and overcome economic uncertainty. If you want to learn more about Monograph, take out your phone right now, take a photo of your screen, visit the link, and sign up to get started today. You can also go to monograph.com to learn more about how firms use Monograph to make quick and confident decisions about budgeting and resources to drive their firms forward.